Thank you. I know it's been a long day for everybody here. I'll try to do this quickly, but I really appreciate the opportunity to be here today and to really put wheels on what you've heard and on your time that you've invested late in the day on Saturday and the financial support that you've given. And I proudly do that both as a dad and as a businessman. And I hope that I can appeal to each of you as parents and as business people, that you'll take to heart what's really happening in the lives of peoples and families through the work and all the things that you've heard and seen today. You know the worst thing about pancreatic cancer, the absolute worst thing? The worst thing is not the discovery of it. It's not reading about it. The worst thing about pancreatic cancer is people want to tell you there's no hope. And I hope today that you've heard and seen and witnessed and can believe differently about that. Because heaven forbid, as a parent or as a business person, that you have to stand on this stage someday. But if you've been involved in it, you've seen the best today and the best work that's taking place in this terrible disease. My daughter, at 30 years old, after a terrible, trying pregnancy in which she lost 20 pounds, gave birth to a beautiful baby boy, 6 weeks premature. He went into intensive care, and the next day, because of the condition of her ovaries and the fear of ovarian cancer, she had a full hysterectomy. The ovaries were sent to Johns Hopkins Hospital, and a week later, we learned that it wasn't ovarian cancer, it was pancreatic cancer that had metastasized to the ovaries. And then we had to wonder about a baby boy in intensive care and a daughter with pancreatic cancer. The first oncologist that walked into my daughter's room in that hospital after those 3 events said, "Elizabeth, I'm so sorry to hear about the pancreatic cancer, and we're going to do everything we can to give you a quality life for what life you have left." I gathered her x-rays, her CT scans, her lab work. I got taught in 28 years in the General Electric Company, there's a solution for everything. I grabbed it all. I had worked in GE Medical Systems for a period of time. I knew a lot of people in the medical world. I thought at that time I knew the right people. I sent scans, I sent x-rays, I sent lab work. I sent it to people at institutions that I won't call the names, to some of the best surgeons, the best oncologists, the best people in medicine. 3 of them I called, and what they said is, "Randy, there's no hope. There's no hope." Well, as I said, I spent 28 years in the General Electric Company. Jack Welch taught me there was a solution for everything. Jack Welch told me you just have to find hard enough. Well, look hard enough to find the answer. You got to take chances. You got to take risk. But most importantly, you got to find the A players. You got to build a great team. You got to network. And so I decided that I would have to apply all those things I learned, and I also decided I was going to have to pray a lot and cry a lot. Elizabeth and I, just before Thanksgiving, started interviewing oncologists in Atlanta. We found a South African named Dr. Daniel Dobbs. Dr. Daniel Dobbs told us 3 things the first day we met with him. He told us first that Elizabeth had a very rare cancer that was in pancreatic cancer that was in the tail of the pancreas, and surgery would be difficult to get to, but he was going to aggressively attack this cancer as strong as he could with all that he knew about it, and that his job was to battle the cancer and extend her life as much as possible. Some hope began to glimmer. Then he explained to us that pancreatic cancer is not a bell-shaped curve. Pancreatic cancer has a very skewed distribution, where 74% of the patients diagnosed with it are lost in the first year. He told Elizabeth the first day in the office, "Elizabeth, I'm going to get you to the tail end of the curve." And he said, "You know how I'm going to get you there? I'm going to be your broker." How many physicians you ever heard say, "I want to be your broker. I want to find the solutions. I want to find the answers"? And he had read about Dr. Von Hoff and some of the things that he had done, and he aggressively attacked with the very first chemo what you heard Dr. Von Hoff talk about, gemcitabine and oxyplatin. Oxyplatin destroys the feeling in your toes and in your hands. You can't even put your hand in the freezer to pull something out. But Elizabeth undertook it. In about the first 4 months of that chemo every other week, Dr. Dobbs actually had the opportunity to hear Dr. Von Hoff speak at a symposium, came back to the office the week of our chemo and said, "You got to meet this guy. You got to see him." He didn't know us. He didn't know anything about us or our family. We called his office, and we got treated like we were the only patients that ever called there. When we saw him, the first time we saw him was for over an hour. The first 3 things that Dr. Von Hoff said to Elizabeth when he sat in the room with her is, for me and my team, our job is to give you the most quality and quantity of life that is possible, and it will be our job every day. He said, we're working on 37 different therapies. All we've got to do is apply one to you that keeps you alive till we find the next best one. But we're going to keep working till we find the next best one. Because you have a very rare cancer, but we believe that we have the opportunity to perhaps get you to surgery. Remember I said there was no hope? We were full of hope. You heard about a vaccine today? You can see in the flyer that you got about this meeting, you can see what a grand announcement took place on it on November the 16th. And you know that 14 months ago, Elizabeth went on gemcitabine and a vaccine because Dr. Von Hoff had done the work that he had done because of the support you'd given him and because he was willing to take some risk, and Elizabeth wanted to go right along with him. We shrunk a tumor that wasn't supposed to shrink. We were introduced in January of this year to Dr. Doug Evans. Again, a great friend and a great operating partner of Dr. Von Hoff's. Dr. Doug Evans was focused on pancreatic cancer surgery for 19 years at MD Anderson and just moved to be the chief of surgery in a new hospital, new cancer center in Milwaukee. We took the entire family, including Andrew, the grandson, and Abigail, the granddaughter, and we went to Milwaukee for 3 weeks, where in March of this year, Elizabeth underwent surgery that took 7.5 hours. The tumor in the tail of the pancreas was removed. Half of her pancreas was removed. Her spleen was removed. Her left adrenal gland, a portion of her stomach, and all of the very critical arteries were completely rerouted. A 2-week stay in the hospital just to recuperate from it. She went through a 3-month period of getting over the surgery. We went back to see Dr. Von Hoff in August, and we discovered, as you heard here today, that she has a genetic mutation. Her DNA produces the cells every day that feed that cancer. And in late August, again at Dr. Von Hoff's direction, you saw the third one on the chart, gemcitabine and FU5. And we started that. And Elizabeth, my warrior, my hero, fights today every other week. The nausea got so bad with the new stuff that we just started. We kept calling Dr. Von Hoff's office and saying, you got to do something, you got to do something. He called people around the world and found the best medicine, olanzapine. It's a psychotic drug that Elizabeth takes for 2 days after chemo. At the end of the day, she's fought for 2 years. I never knew she had it in her. She has the warrior inside of her, and I love the song. She's my hero. Her grandmother died of pancreatic cancer. There is a real opportunity for us to eliminate this with all you've heard and all we're finding out, and if we can give the warriors the support on the front end and through the process. I'd just like to close by saying one thing, and I'd be really remiss if I didn't say this. Of all the years, of all the people I've talked to, all the interfaces that I've had, I've never met a more compassionate, more caring, more hard-charging, more words on a whiteboard man than Dr. Von Hoff. As a man and as a doctor, he's my hero. Thanks. Napoleon Bonaparte said to his leaders that leaders are dealers in hope. He knew with the battle that he faced, the most important thing to give his men was hope. It's also often been said that leaders are disruptors who seek solutions. Let me tell you, there's no bigger dealer in hope for every patient he interfaces with. There's no bigger disruptor of change in ending pancreatic cancer in our lifetime than Dr. Daniel Von Hoff, and I appreciate it. Thank you. Elizabeth was featured in Stand Up for Cancer, in the national campaign, and they had a series of 4 people that was in the national broadcast again, sponsored by Major League and on all of the channels. And I believe that we're going to play that broadcast at this time.
With Abigail, I loved being pregnant. Gained 55 pounds. She could have stayed in there forever.
I felt like it was the picturesque pregnancy our family's beginning right now.
When I had Andrew, it was so different. He was not moving around like my previous pregnancy.
She looked so sick.
Once I had Andrew, the problems just continued on for me. On November 5th, the doctor came in and said, "You've got pancreatic cancer."
I was in disbelief. I mean, 31 years old? It's impossible, you know?
She was so young and beautiful and vibrant, to have something so horrible.
She had stage 4 pancreatic cancer. 1 in 6 actually survived 1 year.
I felt doomed. I would sit there and I would picture my children and my husband and them moving on. And that hurt.
I never ever felt like that was the end for her.
He wouldn't let me quit. He said he was not going to raise these kids alone.
I'm too tired.
When Elizabeth walked in, we had some confidence that we had some new tools. What she is receiving is a chemotherapy treatment, as targeted as we can make it.
Every time I would get a scan, everything kept looking better. I was shocked that they're talking about radiation and surgery because I was told there was no way that was ever going to happen. 2 weeks before surgery, my neighbor next door, she wanted to just have a send-off party. They had this big box wrapped up. I had no idea what was in it. And it was a quilt that had everybody's handprint, my children's handprint, my parents' handprint, Pat's, neighbors, their children's handprint, just to know that they, even though that they couldn't be there with me, that was their way of showing that they were. Oh, there's Mama, there's Patricia. On March 28th, they removed the tail of the pancreas.
May 5th was the follow-up to her surgery when the doctor came in, said, you know, everything's fine.
He told me I was boring, and that was the best word I could hear.
The fear of her kids growing up without her has really helped her in realizing that, look, I need to be there for them.
She has fought and fought and fought just to be here.
My hopes for Elizabeth, she gets to see her 2 children grow up, and she gets to see her grandchildren.
If I hadn't been pregnant with Andrew, they might have never found the cancer until it was too late. I tell him he's my angel. Good afternoon. My name is Elizabeth O'Connor, and I'm so honored to be here with all of you. I am so glad that I was given this opportunity to speak and express my sincere gratitude. I am a young mother, wife, and daughter, but I am also a stage 4 pancreatic cancer survivor. My fight and healing results against this terrible disease would simply not be possible if it were not for God, my family, my doctors, and my friends, and all of you who have supported this cause with your time as well as your financial resources. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you all. Also, I want to publicly acknowledge the support, love, and commitment that Dr. Von Hoff has provided for me. You could not be raising money to support a more deserving individual as he works tirelessly to find a cure for one, if not the most dreaded cancers of our time. Thank you, Dr. Von Hoff. And thank you for all that you've done for my family as well. In closing, the most important thing I could add is that, like all of you, I want a better life for my 2 children and ultimately their 2 children. I believe that can happen by beating pancreatic cancer now and for all of the generations to come. Thank you again for your gracious support in this fight. God bless.
Thank you.